Coming this fall, the story of a grape who refuses to be crushed. One grape to rule them all, and one bottle to mind.
Whoa, honey, what are you doing?
I was recording an intro.
Okay, that's great, but we got a podcast to do.
Okay.
All right, well, this is We Know Texas Vino.
Hey, everybody, this is Will with We Know Texas Vino, and you know, I'm sitting here, I have a feeling that something's just not right here. Wait a minute. There's somebody strange sitting right next to me. Is that Michael? No, that's not Michael. That's Robert.
Thanks for calling me strange. I appreciate that.
Well,
yeah,
you know,
this is Robert sitting in tonight.
I'm used to having Michael here. And
right.
So, unfortunately, Michael couldn't make it up here for the Piney Woods Wine Festival, and so Robert is actually my stepdad who's standing in for him.
I'm
today.
Sitting down, by the way.
Okay, yeah, he is standing. Oh, sorry, sitting. So, but I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of We Know Texas Vino. So we're at episode number 37, and it's amazing that we've gone this far. A lot of people don't know this, but we are now have hit 29 countries globally for our podcast, and that's just amazing. And we've not even did a full year yet. So we're here actually in Bullard, Texas. We're sitting at Moody Family Winery. Is that correct?
Moody Family Wines.
Moody Family Wines. Okay, sorry. So we actually have Joe and Jasmine sitting here. So Joe is actually one of the owners and is his wife, correct?
Correct.
And then we have actually Jasmine here, who is the tasting room manager. Since you are new to this podcast,
right.
We're going to quickly do some little housekeeping. So can you tell everybody where they can find us at?
Sure. If you go out there on the World Wide Web, it's texasvino.com or Facebook, We Know Texas Vino. And you've got to check it out because there's a lot of good stuff out there, especially in the Texas area. Basically, right now we're kind of like over in East Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we roll through all that. You can pick all that up and keep track of what's going on. Once you go there, you'll find out even more stuff, including what's going on right now.
That's correct. And actually, when I wrote these notes up here, I actually made a typo on here, so this is my fault because I've never done this. Michael does all this. Our domain is actually weknowtexasvino.wine.
Wine.
Interesting.
You like that, huh?
Yeah.
Jen Chase. She's the one who introduced that to me from Bingham. So, again, we are at episode number 37. We are excited to be here at Moody Family Wine. We're here with Joe. We're here with Jasmine. So we're going to go ahead and open this episode up here. And so first off, Joe, tell us a little bit about you and what made you get into winemaking or actually in wine, period.
Well, I began drinking wine as an infant. No.
I think we all have.
No, this all began back around 2004 when I gave Anne a winemaking kit for a Christmas present. Now, she remembers it differently than I do. I mean, this never happens between husband and wife, but I got the kit to make a homemade wine for her. She maintains that I expected her to make the wine. But since I've got the microphone now, since I have that, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it here. But I made the wine, which was a Washington State Riesling.
Okay.
We had been up to Washington and tasted a Riesling in 1984, not knowing anything about wine. And if I can mention the name of it, we visited Chateau Saint Michel. Which is a tremendous winery. But after we made that first batch of wine, it wasn't bad. Actually, it was pretty good. And that was the beginning of a really bad habit.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you see it, if it's a bad habit or not.
well, that was the beginning of my hobby winemaking.
Okay.
And so I would continue to make various wines, and I would experiment with different types of fruit, different types of grapes. I had a very good friend. Well, I have a very good friend who has a vineyard in Fredericksburg.
Okay.
So we would go down to harvest every year. Bob and I would make wine together. Mm-hmm. I would bring grapes home, and we would make, and we would compare, and we'd pour out a lot of bad wine. But and that happens.
Yeah, it happens.
You can't get better at something if you don't mess up. If you're
exactly
pushing the envelope and trying different things. But that's how it all got started.
Okay.
And then we started visiting a lot of tasting rooms, and then we would go on trips specifically to pursue wine vineyards and tasting rooms. And it came a point in time when the business that I was in, it ebbs and flows very dramatically, and it was happening to it was slowing down. So I said, well, during this slowdown, I'm going to pursue something fun before I get too old to do something that's fun.
Excellent.
And not that my other business wasn't fun. This one is a lot more fun.
It is.
And you get a lot more friends when you have wine.
Yeah. You make more friends out of wine than you do anything else.
Wine people are friendly people.
And nobody gets mad at you. You know, like,
Oh, that in regular business they do, but in the wine business, most people come in here happy, and it's our job to keep them happy when they get here.
Or if they're not happy when they come in, by the time they leave, they
will
are happy.
be happy.
So, yeah.
We're all happy.
But I converted this my office to a tasting room in 2016, or we opened in 2016, and I'm not sure Ann really believed I would go through with it, but I did. It was her job to stop me if it was a bad idea, and she didn't stop me.
So you could actually blame her if anything happens then, because you could tell her, hey, you know what, you should have stopped me.
I do. She's not here to refute it.
Yeah. Great. It's on record now. I mean, it's out there.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Just like your drum playing. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that was a secret too.
Wow. We'll have to be a different episode on that one. So, awesome. So you decided to do all this. You get into this. During that process, is there any time that you like stopped and you was like, I don't know if I should do this now, or should I continue?
You mean other than earlier today?
I'm not going to lie, because I'm pretty beat from today too.
No, I mean, of course we question. I think it's normal to question what you're doing on a regular basis.
Right. Yeah.
How am I doing? Can I do better? Well, I know I can do better.
Oh, yeah.
So, how can I do better is a better way to phrase it. What can I do better? How can I serve the public better? What can I do for the community that we're in? So we're always, well, I say I am always internalizing or analyzing how can we be better or do better? How can I be better to my staff? How can I accommodate them? So,
I heard whips do a lot.
Yeah.
No, that was Wes, not whips.
So, all right. So, Jasmine, we're going to come to you. We're going to focus now to you for a second.
Okay.
So, tell us about yourself. So, I know you're a level 1 somm. Is that correct? So, tell us how you got into doing the wines. Tell us how you became a level 1 somm, and tell us how you ended up coming here.
Okay. So my name's Jasmine, basically. So yeah, I the first time I experienced wine, I was actually from a friend, and she was a big cab drinker. And so I was like, well, what are you drinking? She's like, oh, it's a cab, but it's a dry wine. You probably won't like it since you've never had wine. Well, I loved it. And so I started going around to different tasting rooms and doing tastings all over different states even. And I just found that sometimes I would go to a tasting and my questions weren't getting answered. Like, well, why does this smell like this spice, or what's, in this, or what creates this flavor, or, in the wine. And so I started doing research, and the research it was fascinating. It opened up a whole new world to me. And so I looked into sommelier. I started following different sommeliers. I got the Wine Bible was a great source, and then ended up talking to my grandmother, who had 17 acres of vines in the Ozark Mountains.
Okay.
And she was more into the growing, and so got into her notes about viticulture and all the things, and it just kept on growing. And so anyway, well then I came for a tasting and met Joe, and we got to talking about wine and talking about my grandmother and the winery that she sold her grapes to, and the winery she worked with in Arkansas. Well, Joe knows them, And so it just kind of was like, well, I think this is meant to be. And I was like, you hiring? And he's like, yes, I am. So here I am. And so I really got into the winery, and specifically, I loved Joe and Ann and their personality. And I was like, I think I can learn something from these people. So, and I've learned a lot about the business, wine, but also, not just the culture of wine itself, but the people that are involved in it. And it's been really fun for me.
And that's awesome how, you take two people from two totally different walks of life, and then all of a sudden somewhere in the road, they actually come together. In y'all's case here, y'all had a common denominator here. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, here you are, your business, well, I want to say business partners, but employee, employer. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I hadn't had enough wine today. So that is really awesome how that y'all's story comes together like that. I mean, it's just amazing how, we've done so many episodes. We've talked to so many different winemakers and different people who've come into the industry, and how one way or another their lives intersect with each other, and that's how they got into the industry or how they got into it. And that's just amazing what wine can do for people, But so what kind of wines do you make here? What is your favorite wine that when you make it? Which one do you get excited about every time you make it? You're like, I'm ready for this one to come out.
I get asked a similar question quite often, and I'm sure Jasmine does too. Mm-hmm. And it's really more difficult to answer than you might think, mm-hmm. because and I was answering that question earlier today at the festival, because there are a lot of variables that go into why I want a particular wine at a given time. Mm-hmm. Today was a great day for the dry rosé or the dry white, or if you're a sweet wine drinker, either one of those lighter acidic wines. Yep. But if you're eating dinner, it's all about the food you're pairing it with. And I'm a big red person. I'm a big red fan. Mm-hmm. So I like the Cabernets. I like Malbec. I like blends. Mm-hmm. The blends are a lot of fun, though, to more answer your question. The blend, to me, is like an artist's blank palette.
Yep.
You start with mm-hmm. some very nice wines, which you could bottle as a varietal, mm-hmm. like a Malbec, a Cabernet, a Merlot, Zinfandel, you just name it. Then you experiment with blending. Mm-hmm. How do I want to blend these together to not diminish one of the varietals, but almost like pairing food. Mm-hmm. You want to bring all these blends together on one palate mm-hmm. to enhance the flavor of each one. And it's more difficult than you might think mm-hmm. because you're starting from, if you're going to make a Rhine blend or a Bordeaux style blend, mm-hmm. you start with certain parameters there, but then it's what percentage of which wine,
right?
And which is going to be the dominant wine.
Yep.
Which, what year? How did that grape do this year? Mm-hmm. So this may be a big year for that cab. Cab is usually the more dominating varietal out there, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
And and I guess most winemakers would be excited about the blends.
Right.
I think if I could interrupt just a second, because sometimes when the question is asked, they already know the answer.
Oh, sure.
And
sure.
in this case, so rhetorically, what you came out and said, to me, nailed it. So instead of saying, I like B.
Oh, sure.
But you have come back as a maker saying, and then that tells everybody out there that listens to this, they may have a favorite and not know exactly, and it can change.
Mm.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
Just like you said,
absolutely.
A piece of chocolate, a piece of cheese.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
The temperature.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're sitting outside on a cooler day, you might want to go back to something else with whatever. So to have your favorite, that's pretty tough.
Yes.
I think one of the winemakers that we've talked to said, picking your favorite wine that you make is like trying to pick your favorite kid.
Oh, you may have the favorite, but you don't tell anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that changes.
Or kid number one is actually the favorite this year, but next year that's the worst one. That's going to the bottom of the pack.
Oh, it changes more often than yearly.
Oh, yeah. Or with the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is funny. So in your progress and all these years, and this, I'm going to open this question up to you, Jasmine. Okay, so since you've been here and you've been doing all this winemaking here, what was the biggest hurdle that you had to cross that you finally said, okay, if I can cross this, we'll be okay. If I can't cross this, we have bigger problems?
That's a tough one. Man.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have some sort of in our progress that we're doing our journey of life, whether it's career, whether it's winemaking. We always have that one little thing that we're like, oh, this is not going to work out. Something's wrong here. We're going to have problems. Maybe grape harvest one year was really, really bad and you didn't know you was going to get your fruit that year, or, something. Because I know during COVID shutdown, I mean, there was shortage of bottles. There was shortage of corks. There was shortage of XYZ during that whole time. And I know a lot of winemakers were struggling during that time frame. They're like, we don't know what's going to happen if we can't get XYZ.
Well, these supply chain issues did affect us as well as everyone.
Mm-hmm.
In some of those cases, when we found out there were bottles available, we went ahead and bought them and had them delivered to our bottling facility so that they would be there.
Mm-hmm.
And we would contract out for the grapes or the supply that we needed ahead of time, but we had to go for different suppliers
mm-hmm.
as well, especially after it wasn't just COVID, but after the big weather event that we had
Yep.
that affected, I'm sure everywhere, but especially here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's those were issues, but we were able to go through those. We didn't lose a whole lot of sleep over that.
Okay.
But I will tell you that we've had some internal issues with some of our bottling
Mm-hmm.
that has gone south.
Oh,
And so but everybody has had that experience.
right.
And so we've had to destroy.
So Jasmine's got a story over here because she's sitting there kind of pugging her up like, yeah.
That's right.
So go ahead, share, spill the beans.
Spill the beans.
Spill the beans.
Well, it's not good to hear popping coming from the other room.
Oh.
Boxes are wet. And you're like, oh no.
Oh, so you mean they weren't finished fermenting and they were just...
Well, they re-fermented in the bottle because
and
we
so
had
the corks were
bottling
popping.
issues.
Oh, no.
And we
really...
store our wine upside down in the cases.
Right.
So when the cork pops,
All the water poured out. Mm-hmm.
4th of July.
Oh, my
it
gosh.
drains into the boxes and cases.
Oh, my
below.
goodness. That is not good at all. Oh,
That's
man.
right. And, of course, Jasmine has to clean all that up when it finally
Bless her heart.
Yeah, that wasn't a good day to
And
wear
it was all
white.
sticky.
And it was more than just a day because when that starts happening,
It's just, you got to let it go. You can't just do anything about
Yes.
it. And then it becomes an actual dangerous thing because glass shattering everywhere. You know. Luckily it was in box.
The
Yeah, it
corks
was-
push before the glass shatters.
Okay.
Yeah, thank goodness. Yeah, there was no glass, but but we had to get them, off the shelves because we didn't want anybody,
That
losing
would've
an eye.
Yeah, that would have been horrible seeing one of those corks just doing across
Yeah.
the room.
Oh, yeah. And that has happened.
Oh.
Yeah,
It
they have
usually
sharks.
happens overnight when nobody's here. It just dumps the wine out.
Is that Wes?
That's
Yeah.
what
Wes is over there shaking his head like very fuchsily, like, yes. It has. Man,
But that's an issue we're dealing with currently, as a matter of fact.
Okay, and it's just because they're starting to ferment again, secondary, just ferment again in the bottles.
We were making champagne inadvertently.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because you actually put it in the bottle while it's still fermenting.
That's right.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, we didn't filter out all the yeast that should have been filtered out, nor did we neutralize it, with chemicals like you're supposed to do.
Right.
Because we were filtering very effectively up until that point.
Okay. Gotcha. I mean, yeah, that would definitely make a big difference in what's going on with your bottling. Wow. I can't imagine hearing that at all. I mean, I've heard stories, I've seen videos and stuff like that where people saying that they're hearing the corks exploding and they thought it was gunfire at first, because of just the big sound that it makes. And people saying they lost bottles because of that. And that's crazy. I've never heard of that before. With anything into the podcast we've done, we've not heard of that before. This is the first time. So,
Well, that's probably because everyone else knows what they're doing.
That's why I got the job, learning what not to do.
That's right. In maintain, you learn more by your mistakes than the things you do correctly.
That's right. You know,
So we're getting smarter all the time.
okay. So next time we talk about this, and the next time you're going to say, "Oh yeah, we learned all about the exploding bottles and stuff like that." Now we're doing exploding tanks.
Oh no, please no.
Oh, I've heard some stories where they're doing fermentation in the tanks and all like that, and the tanks just bulge out because they're still doing fermentation and they're doing it on variable tanks, and they had too much pressure on the lids and it just bulged the tank out and ruined the tank.
That would ruin it. Yeah, they need to loosen that lid a little bit.
Just a smidge. Yeah. So I've heard stories about that, and I've seen pictures of people losing their tanks like that, and those tanks are not cheap. They're expensive. Even just a small 100 milliliter is like $2,000.
Yeah,
You know, or sorry, not milliliters, liters. I keep saying that. I always say that. I don't know why. I really hate. I want to make this comment. I really don't like that we have to measure things in the wine industry in liters and milliliters and grams. Can we just do it in gallons and quarts?
ounces and gallons and quarts. Yes, that's right.
I'm not good at math. Okay. So, all right. So you get your winery going. You got everything going. You get it going here, and so you're so excited. You're finally getting everything together, and you get your door open. Now, was it a flood like coming in for the first time, or has it just kind of been trickling in a little as you're going, and then also next thing you know, you have a big following of people coming in? I mean, how did everything get going after you start opening your winery up?
Well, this is pre-Jasmine time.
Yes.
So we never really had a grand opening. We kind of soft opened, if you will, and just kind of went from there. We had a lot of people anticipating us opening, and we've had slow growth. We weren't ever inundated with people coming in here, but it's just grown, and we've made so many connections with different guests.
Right.
I'll call them guests because I really feel like all the people that come in here are our guests more so than customers.
Right.
Because you're coming into our living room, our den, to enjoy a glass of wine with us. We appreciate it when they do pay, but we still treat them as guests.
Right.
That's the way I feel about it.
Awesome. And you know, that's one thing I have to say about any winery that we've been to is everybody, the people that walk in the door, they treat you like family or guest in your home. You know, they don't treat you like a customer or another number or another whatever you want to call them. You know, and that's one thing I love about the Texas wineries is not only they treat you like family, they treat you better than some cases of family. I mean,
yes.
You know, and I'm going to say this because I've been to some wineries where they've walked out and gave us a glass of wine, brought us a charcuterie out that we didn't even order. And they were like, here, we're just going to give this to you because you're our guest. And you're like, oh, well, thank you. That's awesome. That's great. You know? So, I mean, that's what I love about the Texas wine industry. The people here are just so friendly. And not even just the people, but even in the community, the wine community, you have everybody that works together and helps each other out. For a great example, did y'all hear about the winery up in North Texas that got hit by the tornado?
Recently?
No? Yeah, this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I love KK. So this is a shout out to KK and Red River Production. But they got hit by a tornado. And this is how much I love the wine community. Everybody in the whole area, all in the North Texas region over there, all came out in droves to help pull our vines back up and re-put them back in the ground to get everything going. Because, I mean, if not, she was fixing to lose everything. And that's a devastating thing. And you can't find, in fact, I've talked to some people from California, some winemakers from California. You don't find that kind of community in California. You don't find that community in Washington. You don't find it in New York. You find it in Texas. And winemakers from other states are coming to Texas because that's what they want. Mm-hmm. Because we're willing to go out and help you out. Oh, you need help? You need a tractor? I'm coming. Oh, you need something to spray your crops down with? Okay, we're coming out there. You know, that's what I love about Texas wines. That's what I love about Texas wineries. I love about the people who handle all the stuff within Texas wines. Mm-hmm. So it's just amazing.
I want to confirm that. I really do. I came from my background is pretty competitive business, and when we decided we wanted to open our tasting room here, we had been friends with Pierre and Marnell at Keepersall down the road for years. I would talk to Marnell about different winemaking techniques while I was doing it as a hobby, She would give me advice. We would swap bottles and then taste them and talk about them. And I talked to my wife, Ann. I talked to Ann about it, and I said, we have to tell Marnell we're going to open a tasting room, 4 miles away in Bullard before they just hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, okay, how are they going to accept us, selling wine at a winery? Well, little did I know about this camaraderie that was within the wine business.
Mm-hmm.
And we went over to tell her, and she got giddy. She said, oh, this is going to be great. I have to call Daddy and get him in here. So Pierre comes in, and our 10-minute visit turned into a 3-hour visit. And we were getting all sorts of friendly advice from Pierre about things that he had done that we might not want to make the same mistake.
Correct.
But other ideas that he was saying you might want to pursue this.
Mm-hmm.
Then we met with the owners of Terra Winery over in Athens with
Wow, yeah.
and Patrick and Susan. And I still consider Patrick one of my mentors in the business here, because that was my exposure to how much camaraderie there is in the wine business.
Yeah.
And another example of that is today at our Piney Woods Wine Festival, the wineries here together host that festival.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it together,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not competing with each other.
Yep.
We're telling folks, hey, have you been over to this other winery? Have you tasted their port? Have you tasted this other guy's new blend that he's just won a gold medal on?
Mm-hmm.
And that was so refreshing, and that's so nice to be in an industry where you can cooperate.
Yeah. Because if you do like McDonald's or Burger King, y'all are cutting each other's throats.
Yeah, that's not fun.
It's not fun.
I've been competitive before, and I can hang with them, but I would much rather hang with them
Right.
instead of compete.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed too, is like, because when after I got the job, started working here, I went to different wineries and mentioned, like, I was getting into winemaking, as I want to know more about the industry, and everybody was like, oh yeah, come on, I'll show you our tasting room, or oh hey, come meet our winemaker, or where, what are you thinking, like just everybody was very encouraging, like, yeah, do that, absolutely.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, so it's definitely, I've even noticed the community in it.
Well, it's kind of funny because there's really, so Rusty at Breaking Bud, which I need to bring that up to you later on off air, because you need to know him. Okay. But he actually had a word that I'm going to share with y'all. It's called cooperation. So you're cooperating together, but it's still a competition. It's a great word. It's like one of my favorite words. It's not in Webster Dictionary yet. I'm working on that one too. Okay. But it is the industry here in Texas. It's just everybody works together. They all want you to succeed, because you can take the same grape from the same vine, to give it two different winemakers, and it's two totally different two different wines. Mm-hmm. And that's the beautiful thing about wine.
We all offer a different product to some degree.
Yep,
that's right.
Yep. So, I do have a question for you. And so I was it about 3 years ago that y'all introduced me to M6 Winery.
Yes.
It was 3 years ago. My mom was over here pointing at 3, so it's been 3 years ago. Okay. She introduced me to y'all's winery.
Yes, sir.
And so when I tried it, my 2 bottles I took home was the Vintner's Reserve, and those were gone like in a heartbeat. Okay. I remember that's what it was 3 years ago. I think it was what it was. And I noticed y'all recently changed y'all's name from M6 to Moody.
Yes, sir.
So explain that.
Well, we were M6 from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Our LLC is Moody Family Winery, but our trade name, our DBA, was M6 Winery. So our labels were all M6. We came up with the name M6 because Ann and I have 4 kids.
Okay.
And we were a family of 6 when we were beginning our wine journey, and it fit.
Okay.
As we continued to grow, we're very localized. Mm-hmm. It's a mom and pop, if you will. It's a boutique winery, to use a more flowery word, more classy word. But we were looking to maybe grow online with our internet sales and ship out to within the state of Texas. Not sure what's going on.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
I guarantee you can't hear that over this.
Okay. All right, fine. I'm sorry, he's got me distracted.
Internet sales.
Anyway, so yes, I'll back up. Thank goodness for editing.
Oh yeah, you're fine.
We did employ a marketing company to give us advice on what to do if we wanted to increase our exposure outside of our localized area. And they, one of the first questions I was asked is, are you willing to change the name to something that would resonate better with folks who are not able to come in and ask what M6 stands for?
Okay.
So we said, sure. What do you suggest? And they, after interviewing us and talking about it, they said, well, why don't you use the name Moody Family Winery or Moody Family Wines? So that's how we got the name change. It was a professional consultant
Interesting.
that suggested us to do that.
Interesting. So when they introduced me to M6, I thought it was like y'all were like military family that had
guns everywhere.
Yeah, had guns everywhere, and I'm like, yeah.
We'll drive the BMW M6 as our company car, and we are also British intelligence.
Oh, okay.
MI6.
Oh, wow! Look there. All right, guys, we
Oxymoron.
need to edit this one out now. But I will have to say this: I've not drank a wine here. In fact, actually, Jasmine brought me some wine that I'm not a sweet person at all. I'm a sweet person, but I'm not a sweet person.
Sweet wine drinker.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she brought it out. What was it that you brought out?
So that's actually part of our new collection of Moody Vibes. So it's our sweet white. And so, yeah, it's a new blend of white wine. Yeah, sweet white wine. Yeah.
What was that look for there?
I was just, confirming.
No, we just launched that this weekend.
Okay. I'm not going to, I don't drink a lot of sweet wines at all. And that was actually really a refreshing wine. And will I drink it every day? Probably not, because I'm not a sweet, but if it's something I wanted to sit outside on a nice warm day or even a cool day and just have a nice crisp wine, that would have been a really good go-to right there for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was very surprised by it when I first tried it, because I'm bold tannic reds for me,
Yep.
And so when I tried it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see where you're
Jasmine
going with
and
that.
I both tried it yesterday together for
We
the
did.
first time since bottling.
Yeah.
You taste it before it goes in the bottle, and then you leave it in the bottle for a while, and then you kind of wonder, okay, was this a good idea?
Right.
So we opened it
And
and
it
tasted
was.
it yesterday, and
And it would actually make a good sangria.
I'm sure it would. A white Can I go back and say something?
Sure.
That kind of touch on what you mentioned earlier about the treating our guests a way where we know that we want them to feel special. I want to say here, I want to shout out to my staff. Jasmine, Wes are right here, but also the rest of the staff. Ann and I feel so blessed right now to have the staff that we have. And I've told everybody that comes to work for us that I want each guest to feel welcome when they walk in the door. I want them to feel special. And of course, everybody tells everybody that. I've not always had this comfort level, but I even had two comments, one today and one yesterday online, about how good Jasmine was, how well that she treated our customer.
Aww.
Because I don't tell her
I can't see this,
very
but her
often.
face is turning red right now.
No,
So now I'm just going to tell you, this is an opportunity now to ask for a raise. Go from one bottle of wine to two bottles.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice.
no, but I think our staff seriously accomplishes that.
Oh yeah.
That we want. That everyone wishes they had a staff like I have right now.
And I think, and Jasmine and I actually started this conversation when we were off air talking about this, but it starts with the owners, what they're wanting, what they're seeking out for, and then they pass that on to their tasting room manager, and they're saying, this is what I want to accomplish. And then the tasting room manager has to take that vision that you have protrude onto them and say, okay, this is what I want, and then they have to go push it out. And when you have someone that's willing to take your vision and be an extension of your vision, Jasmine here, and push it out also on everybody, you will get a great staff. Oh, and sorry, I'm being pointed at Wes also too. So,
Yeah.
so, but I mean, the few times that I've been here, I've never had a bad experience here. I've always had a great experience, except when it was like 9 trillion degrees outside. That was a bad experience.
It was a little warmish.
But I mean, that wasn't y'all's fault, But I mean, everybody's been so great here. I've never had any kind of bad rapport, bad anything. And I listen to people around and they talk and they say, wow, I really love this environment here. I love this wine. I love the people here. And when you hear that kind of stuff, it says, that's a big thing for your winery, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that's, y'all doing a great job, and I commend y'all for that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's the way I feel.
One of the things that me and Jasmine was talking about is that training your employees to understand what wine is and how to drink and how to pair it is vital. Mm-hmm. Because if they don't know how to drink it and not how to pair it, or how to talk to Jane Doe that walks in here that's never drank wine before and try to teach her how to drink it, absolutely. Or you got Jane Doe that comes in that drinks sweet wine and you try to convince them to drink something else, and they're like, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, you have to know the process to get them to understand how to drink wine. And again, it goes back to your tasting room manager teaching your employees, and of course with Jasmine being the sommelier she is, that, you know, she's like, you know, this is how you do it. Not that way. You do it this way.
Not quite. But yeah, no, it's that is one thing that I definitely wanted to carry out as far as when I started working here is like people have questions. They want to know about what they're drinking, mm-hmm. And making that experience special for them, and, you know, comparing it or to something they're familiar with, or, you know, finding out what they do love and expounding on that. You know.
And it all goes down to the very finite of what their lifestyle is. Mm-hmm. You know, if they do a lot of fast food, then obviously they're going to stick to more of the sweet, semi-sweet, less dry, less tannic wines. Mm-hmm. You know, if they do a lot of high-end eating, like a lot of steaks and all that, then they're going to push more for your reds and your higher tannics wines. You know, they're going to do more high acidic wines. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's really all about learning who they are, what they like, and then go in that direction. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. You got any questions, Robert?
No, I just have a comment. I've come here many, many times. We're on some of your Facebook pages, but
you can go ahead and say membership.
Huh?
You can go ahead and tell them you're a member.
Yeah,
they know that.
Well, you can't see the flag flying behind. But what I would like to say is the way that you bring in to the community. I mean, you're right here in the middle of the town, right by the road tracks. Anything that happens, you got a view.
Yes.
And you bring in artists to play that gives them a chance to throw out their product. Maybe this is not what they want to do. So they go, you know, this was fun. I appreciate it. Then you have people that come back all the time. Everybody's familiar with them. They see that, ooh, next Saturday I'm going to be at Moody because so-and-so is playing. Mm-hmm. And then when you're able to move that, and once again, there are no cameras, but whenever to move that outside to your stage that you have out there, I mean, that expounds the venue beyond the acoustics of this room and gives a lot of people a lot of different ways to put their music out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we certainly appreciate the musicians that do come and play here. We enjoy hearing them. We look forward to them coming back. I'm not always here to hear each one like I used to be, mm-hmm. But we had a dear friend who's no longer with us that helped us set up our music program when we first opened. We tried to pattern our whole tasting room and venue after some of the experiences that we've had visiting other tasting rooms around, mostly in the hill country. And what appealed to us was an acoustic guitar player playing in the background on a deck outside at a hill country winery. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I want to employ that idea when we can or how we can. And of course, plans change, the process evolves. We had the idea, but when our friend David Cooley walked in the door and said, hey, are y'all going to have musicians here? I said, we need to talk. And he started playing. He introduced us to other local musicians.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're fine.
And we've had music every weekend since then.
Nice. That's awesome.
Nice. It's been a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. So first, let's talk about your wine club. What do you have going on for your wine club? What do you offer out for people who want to come up and come to your winery and join y'all's wine club?
Well, I would say the biggest thing would probably be the pairings, the special pairings that we do 4 times a year. Well, we call it call it a pickup party because we want everybody to come and have a good time, and the camaraderie, the friends that people have made. Joe actually mentioned to me, he's like, yeah, so and so and so and so, they didn't know each other until wine club, and now they're best friends, and they go everywhere. They go on trips together. And so definitely that's a big thing, is friendships, and then the special things. And Joe, he's a chef, he cooks.
Oh,
yeah. So he makes some
when
pretty.
are we coming over?
Yeah. So you really get moody when you come for one of our pairings.
I like that pun right there, that play on word there.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
So yeah, that's one of the big things. And then also too, we do exclusive things for members, and they get a chance to get ahead on certain events that we have coming up. For instance, we do paint classes that are a lot of fun, and so they get a chance to come first, and we want to show them our appreciation as much as possible.
Awesome. That's awesome. So what does the future look like for Moody Family Wines?
Oh, it's very bright. Very bright and exciting. We have so many cutting edge things on the horizon.
You got your shades on when you say that.
The wheels are turning. Believe me.
That's what I hear.
Yes, I need to oil those wheels. They're squeaking too much.
Never.
That's what you have your notebook for.
I have a notebook.
He's got a little
I carry
pocket
with me
notebook
all the time.
Really?
And you can't see this on the podcast.
Look.
That is awesome.
I'm always writing down,
Good deal.
jotting down notes. I use the winery, the tasting room, the facilities here as an artistic outlet. I'm always trying things. Some are not good ideas, but I'm always like, I'm doing something.
Just stay away from cotton. Cotton candy wine. Just stay away from that.
I'm going to have to change that right now because I had too many comments today about that.
Oh, really?
Now, someone, I won't say anybody the name of this table right here, said something about a wine that says it tastes like cotton candy, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't taste that cotton candy.
Yeah, I'm going to have to change that.
Oh, it starts back at management, huh? That's funny. So, is there anything that you want to tell our listeners out there? Because I mean, we're broadcasted, like I said earlier, we're broadcasted across 29 countries. We have a vast majority of listeners, obviously here in the States, but most of our listeners are like in Germany and Mexico and stuff. And if they want to come over here to Texas and they want to come to your winery, what do you want to tell them? What is there anything like last thoughts you want to tell or say to just showcase your winery? This is all about you.
Well, what we try to offer here is what I think I've heard from a lot of folks is a little bit of a different experience. We are not huge. We are not big. We don't have beautiful vineyards to walk through. We don't have bed and breakfast for people to stay in and wake up and see the mist over the vines in the morning.
I mean, unless you turn the water sprinklers on, you can.
we can miss the windows.
Right.
But we just have a quaint, hopefully a cozy, comfortable atmosphere. It starts with our staff to make people feel welcome when they come in. If somebody wants to be engaged and they want to discuss wine, Jasmine can do it, Wes can do it, Beth can do it, Tish can do it. Or if they want to be just left alone, we'll leave them alone.
Jasmine can do that too.
I guess you can. We want the customer, the guest, to have the experience that they want.
Right.
Most people are quite talkative when they come in, but if they come in with their own friends, they will pretty much want to be left. They came here to visit with them.
Right.
So we want to provide that. Our goal is, I'll say, mine and Ann's goal has always been that when somebody walks through our front door, regardless of if they walk out with anything or not, we want them to feel not just good that they came here. We want them to feel special. We want them to be very happy that they came by Moody Family Wines.
I would probably say don't pass on Texas wines. Like, I feel like that there we have something to offer that's good, and so there's everyone, when they think of wine, they think of the staples and of different regions. And you mentioned Germany, and immediately we think of certain wines when we think of that region.
Yep.
And so definitely, don't pass on us. We have something pretty great. I think the wineries and in East Texas have something really nice to offer.
And that's one of the things that our goal for next year is to actually. So we've been focusing a lot on the North Texas and the Hill Country, because that's where a majority of Texas wine drinkers are at, is in the North Texas and the Hill Country area. And so we are actually wanting to get people to start coming out here to East Texas. And there's so many great wineries over here in East Texas, and not only they're great, but they're small little town, how can I say it, little small town venues that you can go to, and you get that small town feel that you don't get from Dallas Fort Worth area. You don't get that from Fredericksburg. And then you can come out, and also it will be like in the country area, like, for example, Terra Winery. It's out. When I first found them, I was like, there was no way I would have been able to found this place out here if I didn't know about it first, because it's way out in the country. But when you pull up into it, it's huge vineyards and a big white house in their tasting room. And so we want to start pushing people over here to East Texas also. We want people to know that, hey, Dallas Fort Worth North Texas has good wines, but you know what? East Texas does too. West Texas does too. That's our goal for next year, is to start pushing people out here in the East Texas area. So, yeah.
Well, for the local folks as well, they need to realize what kind of a resource they have if they're wine drinkers, if they're pursuing, if they're interested at all.
Yeah.
It's right here in their backyard.
Yep.
For all of Northeast Texas.
Yep.
We have probably 30 wineries now. Many of them are part of our wine trail.
Yep.
But some are not.
Yeah. So I know that for the North Texas, that's called the North Texas Wine Country over there. And then you got the Hill Country, which is called the Hill Country Wine Country. So in this area, is it called the Pineywood Wine Country?
Well, they're called wine trails.
Right.
And yes, it's Pineywood Wine Trail. There's several different areas. And that's just a group of people that get together and say, okay, this is your area. You're welcome if you're a winery to join this.
Okay.
But we're all Texas wineries.
Right.
And we all get together yearly at our convention, and we're all one big family. We just serve our local areas first, and then we serve the bigger area of Texas, and then we'll conquer the world soon after that.
Oh yeah, we're definitely on that. So I want to say this, and I've talked to a lot of the different wineries about this, that Texas is where California was in the 80s when it comes to winemaking, and then more so on top of all that is Texas is actually overcoming California in a lot of wine competitions now.
Yes.
And even just recently, Texas is overcoming old world France. And you're like, collar popping time now. Because, a lot of people, don't know or don't understand Texas wines. Texas is the only state in the union that has every season all the time, depending on what part of the state you're in. You can go up to the Panhandle, up around Lubbock, all that, and you'll get snow. You can go down to South Texas and you can get a hurricane. You can come over to East Texas and you can get drenched in rain all day. And then you can go to West Texas and have complete desert. We're the only state that has all those environments all in the same place, and it's just amazing that people grow grapes in every one of those regions.
Yes.
So, I just want to say thank y'all for having us out here. And so real quick, before we go any further, we're going to talk about our sponsors right quick. So today is a big thing because we're at the Pineywood Festival. We're talking about the Texas Wine Lover out there. So if y'all are not familiar with the Texas Wine Lover, they're one of our sponsors also. And they actually provide such an amazing little app and webpage. So Jasmine's over here nodding her head, and she's doing this this thumb thing. So how often do you use the app?
Well, I actually had a guy come in and show me the app, and so we talked about it, and I got our winery on the page or on the app, and so he's been using it to kind of promote, what we have here.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And how familiar are you with it?
Oh, I've met Jeff Cope.
Yeah, that's his godfather. Yeah, that's the Godfather.
That's right. Somebody said that call him that. That's right. He's been a big supporter of Texas wine from way back before we were in the business.
Yep.
And he's been very helpful to us, through the technical channels.
Yep.
So we respect him quite a bit.
Yeah, him and Amy has done such an amazing job with this application, not only for a mobile device, but also a web page. And they've got it set up where it's connected to each other. So you can go and sit down on the website and you can do your planning on there, and it goes to your phone, and then you can travel. And then you can find hotels, you can find events, you can find festivals, you can find whatever by just using that app. And you can have an enjoyable weekend drinking wine, or a week drinking wine, or a month, or a year, however you want to do it.
He was always the resource for all the festivals throughout the state of Texas.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And then, of course, our other sponsors that we have, and I'm not sure if you are familiar with this one, is the Texas Wine Club. Have y'all heard of that one? All right. So Texas Wine Club is actually a really interesting what they do. So they take Texas wine and they put them all together and they taste them, and they give people options to try different wines from different parts of Texas that they normally wouldn't try. So, I know they recently just came up to North Texas and got some North Texas wines up there to put into their new shipment that's coming out, I believe, at the end of this month. But they go through a very rigorous tasting because they want to make sure what they're giving to their consumers. I will tell you a story that I've after the air about what happened about that. So we'll say something. But the consumer and they get to try wines that they normally wouldn't be able to get to, because some people just can't get up and leave to go to the hill country or come to East Texas or West Texas or whatever. So what they provide is a service where they can actually have people order from them and get wine from all parts of Texas. It's a really great little service. So check them out.
Look into that.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I know Clay really well. In fact, actually, we were at the North Texas Wine Association meeting and just had a really great conversation with him. And then one of our last sponsors that we have this is my favorite one, by all means, is Fly with Wine. Have y'all heard of them? So let's say you decide to go to Old World and get some wine from France, okay? And you want a case of wine, or even half a case of wine. Okay, so you can either have them ship it via UPS and it get here whenever, or you can actually put it in your suitcase that's made to ship wine and put it on your carry-on and put it on the flight. And you don't have to worry about shipping it and not knowing you're going to get it. And that's what Fly with Wine does. They cure or satisfy the need to shipping wine. And it's really awesome. So you should get on there. If you're going to go fly overseas and get some wine, that's the best way to do it.
We'll have to look into that one.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I'm expecting a shipment right now from France that we bought in July. No, June. But I had them wait until October when it got cooler to ship over here. Jasmine was waiting for that too, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wait.
Yeah. So check out Fly with Wine, because literally you can check it in. And so I know sometimes shipping the wines are expensive like that, but with Fly with Wine, you put it on your scale, you pay your $100, $150, and you check it into in the airplane when you're flying back. And then when you get home, guess what? You've got it, and you're not having to wait another 2-3 weeks, 4 months, 6 months, whatever down the road. So it's pretty awesome. Check them out. So we're going to end this first part of this podcast here, and we're going to take a quick little break and let everybody get a little bit of water because we're all a little parched here. And we'll come back and we're going to do a little quick, maybe 10-15 minute education part on wine and pairing with Jasmine.
Oh my!
Oh, we already talked about this. You already agreed to this.
I did.
So this is Will. We'll be right back in just a few moments.
Hey, this is Jeff Cole from TexasWineLover.com. We're here with Will, Michael, and Jen from We Know Texas We Know.
And this is Amy Nemec with the Texas Wine Lover mobile app. We're wrapping up the interview and moving into the wine education portion of the episode, so stick with us.
Everybody, welcome back to We Know Texas Vino. I am here with Robert, standing in for Michael and Jen. And we got Jasmine here, and we have Joe here at Moody Family Winery. And today we're going to actually do a very interesting education here. And so with Jasmine, with her, and she's got her big eyes right now like, oh my gosh, I'm put on the spot here. With her level 1 Somm, we want her to explain to our consumers out there who drink wine, yes, I said it, how they can actually do like a tasting at home, or even if they come up here. I don't know if you can facilitate that for them, but how can can they do a tasting at home with different things with one glass of wine, and understand how what you eat will change the composition of that wine?
Absolutely. So at home, I would probably recommend starting with a wine that you're very familiar with. If you got a glass of wine, you know what it tastes like. You're familiar with it, and then take different things. So if you want to take something salty, something sweet, something acidic, and those are like the top three, I would say. And so like take like a salty chip even, and then try that, and then have the glass of, taste the wine and see the difference. Have something sweet with it and watch how that changes the wine. So, and then the something acidic with the wine as well. So like you're going to notice immediate changes in the wine. So for instance, and then here at the winery, one of the big pairings that we do to show people or showcase what pairing something with wine can do is with our Cocoa Texas. That's our dessert wine. And so we always pair a dark chocolate almond with it. And occasionally a dark chocolate espresso bean when we run out of almonds. So we have them smell the wine. It's the first sense. It lets them know what's coming. And then we have them taste the wine and swirl the wine around. And then after they've swallowed, they have the piece of chocolate. And then they taste the wine again because the flavor is going to change. It's going to bloom. So, and then they're like, oh my goodness, it doesn't taste like chocolate anymore. I taste raspberry. I taste cherry. They get the berries from the wine instead of the chocolate. So it's definitely meant to be paired. So our cocoa, it pairs beautifully with chocolate, but also as well with other desserts. And it's the same thing with, like, for instance, your bold tannic reds. What you would do with that, something like that, you want that to cut the fat. So fat and tannic reds go very well together. So that's why it's usually paired with red meats.
Gotcha.
And so it cuts that down. It brings, and then it just pairs beautifully. It brings the savoriness of the meat and the sweetness of the wine, and it just brings it all together, and it's just beautiful merriment.
Nice. So what bold red that you have here that you would suggest people to get with a nice, good piece of fatty steak?
Well, we have a great selection of dry red wines. So that's a tough one, actually. That's a really, really tough one. For me personally, I love Malbec. I just if I'm gonna have a Malbec with my steak, but we have two beautiful red blends, the Vintners. I call them the Vintner sisters, and so they pair very well with a hearty stew or a meat, just because the fruit forwardness of the Vintners Reserve, I think, really brings out. It cuts a little bit of the meat and just brings that out really nicely. The salt and the fruit, and I don't know. I think it's really nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I mean, again, one of the biggest things about this podcast is about education also, because we want to teach our listeners who are wanting to learn more about wine and how to drink it and how to consume it. Because, I mean, you just don't pick up a glass of wine like, oh, okay, I want to drink this. There's some knowledge behind it. You want to learn about that wine, because, I mean, like you said, you can take a piece of something that's salty and eat it and then turn around and drink your wine, and it's a totally different thing. And then turn around and have like maybe a hot sauce and try it, and you've got a whole different wine at that point there, And so that's one of the biggest things that I love teaching about people who want to learn more about wines. And that is so awesome. And thank you for bringing that and letting people understand that more. So we're going to come to the closing of our podcast here. So, Robert, was there any kind of takeaways you want to take from this?
No, not really. I just enjoyed being here. For those of you that are out there that are hearing me for the first time, I get to stand in here and do this. And but you know what? We were talking about quotes and stuff earlier today, and I came across one by Frank Sinatra. All right. And he said, alcohol may be man's worst enemy, but the Bible says love your enemy. So, maybe old Blue Eyes had it going on right there. But, it's just, it's great to be a part of this and to listen, because every time we come in on this to learn. And people out there, you have to understand that grab your favorite food and then go find your wine to go with that food.
Yep.
That's the easiest way to do it, because you already know how your food tastes.
Mm-hmm.
Be it Fritos and bean dip or a really good steak. But, hey, it's Texas, I
mean, I've never thought about drinking wine and Fritos and bean chips, bean dip. I mean, I've never thought about that.
That's Texas humus. Or,
I think
hummus or something like that. But anyway, yeah, I just appreciate being here.
Well, I really appreciate y'all allowing us to come in here and sit down and doing this episode. I've loved y'all's wines from the minute that Robert and my mom brought me in here. I really did enjoy it and stuff. I really enjoyed sitting down and learning about your history and how you got into this and stuff, and how, again, like I said earlier, how two people's roads are not even nowhere near each other. All of a sudden, you'll find a common denominator in there, and now look at y'all. Y'all are making a bigger bond and making an impact in your community. So it's pretty awesome. And so I thank y'all for doing that. So we do have quotes of the week when we end these episodes, and Robert already gave one of them. So I've got two more. So this one right here is, compromises are for relationships, not wine. And then our last one here is, an empty bottle of wine is better than a filled one. It shows accomplishments. So this is Will.
Hey, this is Robert.
And this is We Know Texas Vino. Cheers.
Hasta.